Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening, Dan. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
All right. We wanted to do a little Masters recap, and I'll just set the stage here. Scottie Sheffler wins the Masters. His second Masters. He's won, I think, three of the last four tournaments that he's played. Probably the best player in golf right now. And Scottie was your pick to win, and I think he kind of redeemed your faith in him. So I'm going to give you the floor, and then start talking about how Scottie won this Masters, and while other people threatened, sometime during the middle of the last round, and it was a pretty close race.
Yeah. So thank you. So I think he was not just my pick. He was almost everyone's pick. Most of the analysts were picking Scottie just because I think of the way he had been playing over the last, like you said, this is 3 out of 4 tournaments now, and he could have had 4 out of 4. He came very close in the other one a few weeks back of from winning. So basically, yeah, like over the last month, he's kind of just had a complete game, no flaws. He, like we talked about in the preview, his only real weakness over the last year was his putting. His ball striking was second to none, and he's over the last few months he's used a new putting coach. He's hired. He's maintained his allegiance to his regular swing coach, Randy Smith, but he has found a new putting coach, and they've been working together. They changed their kind of putter, the style of putter, about a month or two ago, and since then, his putting's been among the tops, and that's why he's won 2 out of 3 tour events, and then the Masters this past week. And basically, yeah, like you said, it was close up until the final, really after the 11th or 12th hole. That's when things really started to distance themselves yesterday, and there wasn't the drama that we so often like to see with the Masters on Sunday. We love when it comes down to the final few holes or a putt on 18 to force a playoff or for the win, like we've seen over the years by various players. So it was kind of lacking in that drama, unfortunately, but Sheffler was just so steady from after the first few holes. Then he just became so rock solid. He was a little shaky to start, a couple questionable approach shots that he had to have good up and downs in order to save par over the first few holes. But once he kind of settled down, his nerves settled, then he was just lights out. He almost holed out a few approach shots. I remember you said you were in the car listening on number 9 when I think to Mike Tirico's call where he almost holed out on number 9. He almost did the same thing on number 14. Once again, he stuck a ball and spun it back to within tap-in range for birdie. And then he just, had steady. I think he had 1 bogey on number 11, and that was his only flaw on the backside. He just had unbelievable ball striking and putting to kind of close out. And he just let everyone else kind of make mistakes. Just a quick review of the leaderboard. Oberg, the Swede, who was one of your sleeper picks, great pick, finished second place, -7, 4 shots back. He played great, just had one mistake really on number 11 where he pulled his second shot into the pond, so double bogey there, and that dropped 2 shots. Morikawa was right with Sheffler, through the first 9, but then he double bogeyed number 9 and doubled number 11, also put it in the water. So he fell back. He gave back like 4 shots to the field on those 2 holes, and that was kind of the end of his chances. And then one of my kind of picks on Sunday, as I was watching, I was rooting for actually, was Max Homa, the California kid, and he was right there. But then on number 12, the short par 3, he had a bad bounce, hit the ball long. It bounced up into the azaleas, and he had to take a drop, unplayable, and next thing you know, double bogey, and that kind of sealed his fate at the end of his chances for the tournament. So, and then Scheffler just kind of over. It was kind of over after that. The final 5-6 holes, just cruise control, and put on his second green jacket. So that's kind of my recap. I'll let you kind of give some of your thoughts on things now.
Yeah, so I think like we were talking about, I mean, the Masters, I think until the ninth hole, it was a very close. I mean, even on the last day, there was a lot of, I mean, like I said, Ludwig Aberg, I mean, I saw him in the Ryder Cup and he was actually phenomenal. I mean, the Europeans actually put him, toe to toe with all the Americans. So I felt good about that pick, and I felt good about that pick even going into the last day. But like you mentioned, Scotty was the man. I mean, I saw something that said the only person to stop Scotty was the baby that would have arrived a little earlier. But I think uh, right now he did say something. I heard in an interview. He said, right now golf is his fourth priority. But I mean, he's played solid throughout. Like you said, like I was listening in the car when he almost, he made that big birdie. I think it was a 35 birdie, I think, and then
Yeah.
followed up with that, tap in birdie, later in the round. But I think the story here was like, you had Morikawa, you had Homa, you had Aberg, you had all these guys contending, but all these guys, and this is always something that happens in the Masters. I mean, even when in the past, I think whether it was a Rory or any of these golfers, the back nine is when usually all these golfers make big mistakes. I think, as they turn the corner, and I think and Scheffler didn't fall into that trap. Like you said, early in the rounds, and he did drop to -4, I believe, at one point. Clawed his way back to -6, and then once he took the four-stroke lead, it was all curtains down. I mean, I think Aberg, I mean, tried to keep it close, but good for him. For someone who was playing his first major, and that to a Masters, the pressure of playing the Masters is pretty high, and good credit, a lot of good credit to him. But I think the story here is Scotty, who's the number one golfer in the world. He's probably going to be the favorite going into any major or any other event, and hopefully we get to see him in Travelers. I mean, he's always made his round in the Travelers, so hopefully we get to see him in June. It'll be fun to see him. Kind of smoke the scores. I mean, probably get like 25
Yep.
under.
Yeah.
I mean, -11 was pretty good score considering the conditions in the Masters.
Yes.
I mean, you saw how all the good golfers, whether it was a Kepka, even Rahm, or the previous year winner, DeChambeau who was actually leading for a while, and then he kind of fell apart. And then we all know what happened with Rory and Tiger, even though both made the cut. I mean, it was Tiger shot like over 80 in the last game. I mean, obviously, the crowds were there, but once he starts fading away, he still has the game, like you said, but his putting, I mean, he still leaves a lot of approach shot short.
Yeah.
So I still feel like Tiger is not there yet. I mean, he's got the game. I mean, and then I also saw him sometimes struggling with, rubbing icy hots, in game. I think like the third day or second day, I think. But
Yeah.
there you go. I mean, I think it was a very difficult course, and there was a lot of comments from various golfers about the conditions. It was windy. The hole placements, the pin placements were very tough. And I mean, there was a point where I think the sand was whipping into people's eyes. I think day one or day two, they had the rain delay where Tiger actually had to play, uh, two rounds almost in one day. I think he played 13, and then he played
Or 23 holes. I think 23
yeah,
holes on the second day. Yeah. So 5 to finish, then they
Yeah,
made.
you're right. So yeah,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about all the other golfers who struggled
Yeah.
mightily on this course?
Yeah, well, like you said, conditions were tough. It was so windy on the first 2 days. I think the second day especially was wind, and the wind was probably just drying out the greens, so they were probably especially fast. And then as the weekend progressed, it got pretty hot. I think yesterday, I don't know what the temperature was down in Augusta, but it was pretty warm down there, and that just obviously dried the greens out to a crisp, and they were rolling fast. If you didn't hit the exact spot with the perfect spin on your approach side, it was going to kind of roll off or find the false front and roll back, to the fairway. So that made for tough conditions and for for lousy scores overall. Just two quick comments touching on what you already mentioned. With Tiger, before my prediction was that he probably would not even make the cut. I didn't think he'd be able to physically walk, a demanding course that was so hilly with his, issue with his leg, his reconstructed leg and body and all that. But I just think it's come to now is that we're celebrating Tiger for making cuts as opposed to celebrating him for winning. That's what his career, I think, unfortunately, has come to, is that we're now, like I said, celebrating him for just making the cut as opposed to being a real true contender anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how, as things progress, if that's how his successes continue at tournaments, at the majors this year, if he's okay with that, or if he's just gonna retire, because he always said that he wouldn't play in these majors just to play. He wants to play only if he has a chance to win. So we'll see how that plays out throughout the rest of this year. The other majors are going to be tougher for him, I think, just because they're not going to have the same familiarity as he does with the Masters course. So that's going to be interesting. And then just touching on Rory once again, Rory just struggled once again in his attempt to kind of complete the career Grand Slam. I forget what his final score was, maybe +3, +4, but not horrible, but just not enough to really. He was never contending. What's interesting now, I'm seeing these articles leak. I'm sure you've seen it. These rumors that he's going to Live Tour for $850 million. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, so maybe he was thinking ahead to that. I don't know. That'll be the craziest thing. Rahm, now him, if he goes after he was two of the most outspoken people against the Live Tour over the last year since Live came about, and now they both might flip and go that way. That would be just, I don't understand if Rory does that. I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but we all know he's got more money than God almost already. So I'd be shocked. So yeah, those are my just two kind of closing thoughts. So if you want to comment on Rory at all, go ahead.
No, I do think that you brought that up. Interesting. I did see the article, and maybe this could be like thumbing the nose of the PGA commissioner Monahan for, kind of, he was the spokesman of the PGA, and kind of Monahan kind of did everything behind his back, the whole, partnership with Live Tour. So maybe this is the way of like, kind of sticking up to Monahan. But going back to, since you mentioned Live, and that would be crazy. I mean, going back to the Live Tour, very disappointing. Last year, there was a big talk about whether Live golfers will be able to, kind of sustain 4 days of Masters. And then you saw Koepka and even Phil Mickelson make a deep run into like the final day. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Koepka finished second. I think Mickelson, was in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, and Patrick Reed as well.
Yeah, Patrick Reed too. But this year, you saw the opposite. I think a lot of the Live guys didn't live up to the expectations. I think DeChambeau was there, but Rahm, DeChambeau, Koepka, Patrick Reed, pretty much everyone fell off. They didn't even compete. I mean, let alone, have good scores. So there you go. I think it's very interesting. But you know what? The day belongs to Scottie. I mean, he was amazing. I mean, and your pick. So I think you get to win. Maybe you get a Captain Street out of me, but. We'll see. But Aberg, credit to, I think I picked Aberg as my sleeper, so I actually am pretty happy about the fact that he was actually second, because I didn't expect him to win, but that's why he's a sleeper. And then he played much better than all the other great golfers that we're so used to seeing at top of the leaderboard in the Masters. So let's see if this kid can sustain this in the British Open. Or even the U.S. Open later. So I think, we're done. We're what, 2 majors done, right? We got the Masters.
No, just one. Just one now.
Sorry,
we got the PGA coming up.
Yeah, you're right. We still have the PGA. We still have 3 more to go. So, but I do think that, the day belongs to Scottie. But I don't know if he's going to be, depending on his child will be born. But again, if he's going to take some time off and then he's not going to practice much, let's see if he'll bring his A game to all the other majors. Good. All right.
Okay.
All right. I think we're done. I think we'll be coming back. Of course, we'll get some tennis, and then we'll get the other sports coming in soon. So looking forward to doing those as well. So thank you so much, Dan. I mean, I know tomorrow's surgery day, so good luck. And
Thank you.
see you tomorrow on the tennis court.
All right. We'll see you then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.